Hi everybody, it's Corbin, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make that lovely flower collar you see. So first I started off by buying a whole bunch of fake flowers, and these are some of the tools I used: scissors, E65000, glue, and a whole bunch of other things. These are some of the fabrics I used. I used a whole bunch of different things. Now in the video, you're going to see it really fast forwarded. All I did was take apart the flowers, and I just pulled them apart, and I took them apart piece by piece, and just took it slow. I wanted the flowers separated from the stems, and then eventually I took apart the plastic that held apart the flowers, and I just pulled them all apart. I spent like 40 bucks at the dollar store on flowers, and I bought way, way, way too many. If you guys do this project, I want you to realize that you need a lot less than you realize. So while I was doing this, the biggest issue I ran into while pulling these apart is that it's very tedious. And also, if you're pulling the flowers apart, keep in mind that if you're going to pull the plastics off at this stage, like the extra part that holds the flower in place, they will end up everywhere. And make sure you save the leaves and also every other little scrap piece that is not the metal wire part that holds the flower standing straight up. So now what happens next is you go ahead and you see me actually assembling and taking apart the flowers and gluing each piece by piece. Now right here I made a mistake. I squirted my E65000 into this foam plate, and I didn't think about it, but the E65000 ate through the foam plate. Do not do this if you're going to do it. Also make sure when you're using E65000 to do it in a well-ventilated area. Now E6000, I keep calling it E65000, E6000 is a epoxy that is safe to use in sewing machine, it's washing machine safe, it's dry safe, it is made to pretty much be wear and tear, so that's why I picked it, is because if I spilt something on this project later, I wanted to make sure I could wash it and it would be fine, whether I washed it by hand or what. So now with this flower, what ended up happening is I did way too much of the flower all at once, so it started to fall apart because it needed a lot of attention because of how big it was. So I ended up taking a rubber band and wrapping it around it to hold it in place. Otherwise, it just was not adhering. Now, I know this video is a little long, and some of you guys don't like long videos, but it's long because I got a couple requests in person to make sure the videos were longer and not to rush them as much. Now, the video is still fast-forwarded because I literally spent maybe 2.5 hours gluing flowers, so I think you only see me do the big one and maybe a couple small ones because it is very tedious. I don't know if I kept in the part where I actually put the rubber band around the flowers, but that's what I did to hold it in shape. And then once it was dried, I took it back apart. Now during this part, I'm texting Emily because her and I have a texting relationship around 3 a.m. And I think roughly that would be the time I was doing this. And she kept telling me, well, what are you making? That might have been closer to midnight. Because I think I sent her a picture of all the flowers that I had glued. And she wanted to know really badly what I was making, but I didn't tell her in advance, period. So yeah, I go through and naturally I text a lot while I'm crafting, and you guys are going to get a lot of views of me texting probably. And I keep working and I put the flowers all together. But yeah, so today the reason the video is kind of rushed and kind of awkward is because I spent all day at the hospital, which was a very fun, amazing day. My dad had surgery. Everything went fine so far. We haven't gotten any phone calls saying anything horrific happened. We got to see him after he came out of surgery. He was loopy like most people who had surgery, and it was just kind of funny. It was an okay day. I mean, it wasn't my favorite. Now, when you put the flowers together, you need to put pressure in the center of the flower where you put the glue. And I found the easiest way to do it was with something like a long skewer, something with a long handle, so your fingers wouldn't get too gummy, so you could continue to work on the flowers as you went along. Now, these bud flowers, where the roses aren't completely open, they're actually a lot more difficult to work with than I thought, but you just pretty much slab glue all over it. Now, this next clip is a rejected collar, because I didn't like the way the collar turned out. I actually really didn't. So I ended up going with a different type of collar, but this gives you the basic idea of what I did. Pretty much I took white and black lace and layered them, and I pleated the white lace and just stitched it down to my black satin. And once I did that, I put the backing piece, the part that would go against the neck, and I stitched that. So I sandwiched it, either satin piece on the outside of the lace, and I stitched it, and then I flipped it out and I did a top stitch over it to see if I actually really liked it. but it ended up not, so I went with a smaller lace, which I don't show you guys in the video, me sewing the other one. I do think you guys might get a little peek of me doing a top stitch on it. Now, if you guys want more details on this, like if you guys actually want tutorials, just leave it in the comments below, and I'll see how I feel about doing more elaborate tutorials. But yes, so now this green part, what I'm doing is I'm sewing 2 pieces of craft felt together. So I have a longer piece of felt because I didn't want to buy a whole yard of felt, because I didn't need a whole yard of felt. I actually didn't need all of this. I could have cut my felt piece in half. And then I traced the pattern piece that I had figured out the shape that I wanted, and then I cut it out, and then I ended up facing it with another fabric, which I don't have a video of, because you could just have left the felt the way it was. Now in this one, you guys are going to see me start gluing down the leaves all over the little swirly black, the green part. And all I'm doing right here is just snipping the 3 leaf buds, because they usually come in groups of 3 for roses, into single leaves, and then I start gluing them down with the E6000. And this part had its own trials and tribulations. Like, I wanted to kill, yell, and scream and throw the project against the window, set the house on fire, and just walk away. But Mama ain't gonna have that. I would have been dead long before the house even burst into flame. So, now, working and doing this project is very tedious. It takes a lot of time. You can see I started at the very top because I did a test area to see if the flowers would actually hold. Because if they didn't hold, I wanted to make sure you guys actually got a video that could be done. But it held. Once you place the flowers down, leave them alone. You hold them in place for a few seconds on the fabric, and we'll get to this again when it comes up. But you hold them there on the fabric until they actually adhere. Just like I'm doing here. It usually takes about 2 to 3 seconds, and then it's adhered and it's fine. But if you're doing a huge mass of an area where there's overlapping with the E6000, you run into a lot of hiccups. Like, for example, I have no clue if that picture popped in there for you for some reason, but it just did it for me. But what'll happen is the E6000 won't have a chance to start to become hard and adhere to the other fabric, so it'll start peeling up. So I think, yeah, it's happening now where I'm adding more E6000 because it's not adhering. But yeah, so let's do a funny story time, I guess. Let's see. So, today at the doctor's office, I was talking to the anesthesiologist with my mom and finding out everything that was going to happen. The guy was very, very charming. Very, 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 very cute. And I'm going to admit I had a massive crush on the individual for a little bit. And I was very happy. But besides that, he's a very charming, very good doctor. I do recommend if anybody has to go to the hospital, just go down to Cottage or Marion. We were at Cottage today, and they were just amazing, and they were great, and they were very comforting, and they explained everything to a T, to perfection. So now, what we're going to run into as I keep doing this is, it's a lot of just layering leaves on top of leaves, on top of leaves, on top of leaves. And it looks very pretty once it's done. You could just leave it with the green leaves if that's what you wanted. See, now you're at the point where I'm adhering flowers, where what you do is you glue them and you press and hold, and you just stay there and press and hold. It's kind of cool how well that works out, and how long it takes. Now, I know in today's voiceover, it's going to be kind of funky, and it's actually peeking in the red a lot, but I don't have time to re-record the voiceover. So I'm probably just going to adjust it as best as I can. You'll probably get a really loud voiceover today. And I'm sorry about that, but it's the way it's going to be. Now, if you notice, the way I'm pressing the flowers is you have to go towards the very center so you can get the actual point of absolute pressure correct. So you're going to press it, and you're going to make sure that as you press it, it's going to hold. And you have to do this for about 1 minute to 2 minutes, because otherwise it'll just fall right off the project. I had to do it with each flower 1 minute to 1 minute, and minute to 2 minutes, and it's just insane how long this took. I think this took me a good 2 hours, even though it doesn't look like it should have, because a lot of it, as you're holding it, other flowers will shift and move. It's very, very pretty. This is a very easy project if you just want to make something creative. And don't worry, with all the extra flowers I end up with, I'm going to do another child-friendly tutorial, because we used to, when I was little, we used to make fairy people, and we used to use fake flowers. And it's a fun project to do with kids. So look for that in the future, because I may make fairy houses and stuff like that for fun. So, as you can tell, I'm still gluing flowers. I don't know what else to say about it besides flowers. And then magically done! Here's a picture of it being done and completed and how pretty it is. And then there's me wearing it in all of its splendor. It actually turned out really pretty. I got a lot of compliments on it. My mom and my brother both loved it. But again, this was at like 5:40, so I didn't get to actually do anything besides take a few pictures, run inside, and edit the video because I didn't want to be doing this all night. So if you guys liked it, go ahead and like, favorite, subscribe, leave me comments and questions down below, and I'll do my best to get to them. Until next time, love everybody. Bye.